The world had fallen into chaos. What was once a bustling city now lay in ruins, consumed by the relentless tide of the undead. My name is Roy, and I'm 17 years old. I'm all my 12-year-old sister, Donna, has left in this nightmarish world. It all began a few weeks ago when an experimental virus escaped from a government lab, turning people into flesh-eating monsters. Me and Donna were sitting in our living room with our father. He was reading the newspaper about the outbreak, trying to comfort us amidst the chaos unfolding in our neighborhood. Our dad was a strong man, an army veteran, and his presence gave us a sense of security. He assured us that everything would be fine, his words imbued with the determination that only a soldier could muster. Suddenly, we heard the heart-wrenching sound of glass shattering, echoing from the kitchen. Our dad, his brows furrowing with concern, quickly set aside the newspaper and rose from his chair. He told us to be quiet and stay put, assuring us that he would check on the disturbance and return shortly. Donna pleaded with him not to go, fear etching her young face, but he smiled reassuringly and said, "Everything will be fine, I promise." Little did we know that those would be the last words he would ever speak to us. We watched in anxious silence as our father disappeared into the dimly lit hallway leading to the kitchen. The minutes felt like hours as Donna and I clung to each other, dread gnawing at our hearts. Then, the silence shattered. A blood-curdling scream echoed through the house, a sound so filled with terror that it sent shivers down our spines. It was our father's voice, but it was distorted, filled with agony and fear. My heart raced as I grabbed Donna's hand, and we exchanged a frantic, horrified look. "Dad!" Donna cried out, tears streaming down her face. "We have to help him." I hesitated, torn between the urge to rush to our father's aid and the need to protect Donna. But deep down, I knew we were too young, too powerless to face whatever horror had befallen our dad. "Donna, we can't," I whispered, my voice trembling. "He told us to stay here. We need to do as he said." Tears welled up in her eyes as she reluctantly nodded, her tiny fingers gripping mine as if seeking comfort in the midst of the nightmare unfolding around us. We waited in agonizing silence, the seconds ticking by like hours. The kitchen remained eerily quiet, the only sound the faint dripping of water from a leaky faucet. Minutes turned into an eternity, and still, our father did not return. With each passing moment, our hope dimmed, replaced by an overwhelming sense of dread. It was as if the darkness had swallowed him whole, leaving us alone in a world where the unimaginable had become a chilling reality. Suddenly, a chorus of guttural growls and shuffling footsteps emerged from the kitchen, the sound of the undead drawing closer. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized that the kitchen had been overrun with infected. There were too many of them for us to confront, and our only option was to flee. "Donna, we have to go, now!" I whispered urgently, pulling her toward the front door. She nodded, her eyes wide with fear, and we made a frantic dash for the exit. Our home, once a sanctuary, had become a death trap, and we could only hope to escape the clutches of the encroaching nightmare. We had been on the run ever since, scavenging for food, water, and shelter. I had become Donna's protector, and in this world, the roles had reversed. I was teaching her everything I knew about surviving in this apocalypse, hoping against hope that we could find safety someday. We were currently holed up in an abandoned apartment building. The windows were boarded up, and we had set up traps to keep the undead at bay. We sat in the dimly lit room, surrounded by flickering candles, as I continued to educate Donna on the art of survival. Donna, remember, always check your surroundings before entering any place, I said, my voice hushed. And never waste your ammo unless it's absolutely necessary. We don't have much left. She nodded, her big, innocent eyes reflecting the harsh reality we were living. I remember, Roy. The sound of distant moans filled the air, a grim reminder of the horrors that lurked outside. We had a map with a safe zone marked on it, a place rumored to be free from the infected. Our goal was to reach it, but the journey was perilous, and we had no idea what awaited us along the way. The next morning, we packed our meager belongings and prepared to leave our makeshift sanctuary. I strapped a small backpack onto Donna, making sure she had enough supplies to last a few days. As I shouldered my own pack, I noticed the dark circles under her eyes and her pale complexion. The constant fear and exhaustion were taking a toll on her, and it broke my heart. Roy, are we going to make it? She asked, her voice trembling. I knelt down and hugged her tightly, trying to be strong for both of us. We'll make it, Donna. We have to. We ventured out into the streets, moving silently and cautiously. The city was a wasteland of abandoned cars, broken buildings, and the occasional gruesome scene of carnage. The stench of death hung heavy in the air, a constant reminder of the world's descent into madness. We encountered a few close calls, narrowly escaping groups of zombies by hiding in the shadows and moving quietly. As we made our way through the desolation, I taught Donna how to pick locks, find food in abandoned stores, and even shoot a gun, though I hoped she'd never have to use one. Days turned into weeks as we pushed forward, our journey filled with danger and uncertainty. Along the way, we met other survivors, some friendly, and some not so much. We learned to trust no one completely, for in this world, survival often meant doing whatever it took. One night, as we huddled in a dilapidated warehouse, I noticed a change in myself. My body was growing weaker, and I could feel a burning sensation in my chest. I knew what it meant. I was infected. My heart sank, realizing that my time was running out. I kept it a secret from Donna, not wanting to burden her with the knowledge of my impending fate. Instead, I focused on teaching her even more, hoping that she would be able to survive on her own when the time came. One fateful morning, as we were scouting a grocery store for supplies, disaster struck. We were ambushed by a group of ruthless survivors who wanted our meager belongings. I tried to reason with them, to plead for mercy, but they were beyond reason. In the ensuing struggle, I was bitten, and the realization of my imminent death weighed heavily on me. We managed to escape, but the infection was spreading rapidly through my body. I could feel my strength waning, and I knew I wouldn't make it to the safe zone. Donna, unaware of my condition, tried to comfort me as we found a temporary hideout in an abandoned house. Roy, we're going to make it, she said, her voice filled with determination. I smiled weakly, tears in my eyes, and ruffled her hair. I know you will, Donna. You're strong and you've learned well. As night fell, the infection had taken its toll, and I could feel myself slipping away. Donna held my hand, tears streaming down her face. I love you, Roy. I love you too, Donna, I whispered, my vision fading. Donna, believing that I had succumbed to the infection, left the house in tears, determined to continue our journey alone. And as I lay there in the darkness, I watched my little sister walk away into the unknown, grief-stricken but determined to survive.